President Donald Trump signed an executive order last month abolishing the trade loophole, which allowed goods worth up to $800 to enter the U.S. duty-free. NBC's business and data correspondent Brian Chung has more.
Global mail carriers suspending deliveries to the U.S. amid confusion over new import duties.
I won't be able to send you anything. Hopefully we can get this kind of figured out soon. I don't know what you guys are doing over there.
So what I wanted to dive into today, guys, is the new shipping rules into the US, how they're going to affect you, especially as a Canadian reseller. That's what I am. I'm based here in Ontario, Canada. I'm about 45 minutes from the New York State border. The new rules have simply crushed my eBay sales to the United States. I had to turn it off, and I'm going to explain why here. After that, I'm going to show you guys how my eBay sales have been going for the past year. Now, they haven't been super great. I've had a lot of time off, but I'll dive into that as well. So what's going on here, guys, is that there's a growing list of countries that through their own postal service are not going to ship to the United States anymore until this gets figured out.
Australia, India, New Zealand, the UK, and parts of Europe say they will stop shipping parcels to the States before the end of a trade exemption known as de minimis, which since 2016 had allowed goods worth up to $800 to enter the US duty-free. But per an executive order signed by President Trump last month, goods coming in from abroad less than $800 will be slapped with country-specific tariff rates starting Friday.
As an example, Australia, the UK, Japan, Norway, Russia, South Korea, Sweden, Switzerland, Spain, India, Germany, France, Canada, all these countries. I'll put a little list here. Now, this list is growing every day, guys. The reason they will no longer ship to the United States is because the de minimis rule has been canceled by the Trump administration. So what this means is that packages under $800 used to freely flow into the United States. There's no duties or tariffs levied on these items, so that you could just ship them down. And especially as a reseller selling used goods, this was a perfect thing. The Postal Service was a cheap option to ship. I ship video games, movies, stuff like that. Average cost, $6, $7 to ship one of those down pretty much anywhere in the United States. The private carriers do not ship at this rate, guys. They're usually about 3 times more for the smaller package stuff. As an example, UPS, you're probably looking between $17 and $20 to ship from Canada down to the US. It's just not worth shipping a video game or a movie at that price at that point. Add to the fact that it will be subject to duties and tariffs on top of that. Now, it's just not a viable option for us Canadian resellers. So last year, 1.36 billion items entered the United States under this de minimis rule. Not dollars, guys, that's items. So you can just imagine the consequences of this executive order. Now, from what I've been reading here, and you can go look this up too, it's up on the screen.
Cost consumers a staggering $13 billion overall. The cost breakdown, $80 per item for countries with a tariff rate of less than 16%, $160 per item for countries with rates between 16 and 25%, and $200 per item for countries with rates above 25%. Those small dollar costs amounting to big picture concerns for the economy, as Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell signaled late last week that rate cuts could be on the horizon.
The shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting our policy stance.
There's a tariff bracket set up for this. It could be $80 on tariffs of 16% or less. And then for the area of 16 to 25%, it could be $160. And anything over 25%, you could be looking at $200. So it's not worth the risk. And as a reseller or anyone shipping any good down to the United States from anywhere, this will kill this marketplace, in my opinion. Personally, from talking to the employees at the post office and from what I've seen online here, what this means now as a seller from outside the United States, I would have to prepay these charges. I would have to figure out the country of origin for the item, even though it's a used good. I would have to figure out the tariff amount and the duties and prepay all of that. And you could see how this will just not fly, and people are just not going to do it. No one's going to prepay on items like this to send them to the United States, guys. It's just a reality. It is very unfortunate for the end consumer in the United States, because this is really going to limit what you can buy at a reasonable cost down there. And I don't think a lot of people in the United States realize what is about to happen here. Yes, you can say buy local, buy stuff made in the USA. But the fact of the matter is, most of the stuff that's getting shipped into the United States is not actually produced in the United States, and there's not really an alternative to it. So you have to consider that. You can't just build a factory, you know, for billions of dollars to produce an item that you could get from China or Canada or Norway, you know, for a couple bucks or something. It's just not possible, guys. A quick snippet of my eBay and how it's been going. I would say I sell about 30% of my items in the past year to the United States. Now, I only started selling in the United States. I don't even know if it's been a year, guys, so I'm not too overly concerned about it. I know it's going to slow down my eBay store. I know the economy's crap in both countries anyways, whether they tell us that or not. So I know that's going to slow it down. It's just the way it is. But you can see, you know, $300 in the past 7 days. It's been pretty slow. Last 31 days was 1,700. You know, last 90 days, 3,700. And then for the year, almost 12,000. Now, that's below what I did the year before and the year before that. And like I said, this is a prime example of you can see yourself in your store. When you sell the same stuff, it's not always just the market for that. You can tell when the economies are nosediving, and this is a prime example of that. Last year, even not selling to the United States, and I would say it was probably split half and half. Half the year I was selling in the States and half the year I wasn't. I was close to 2,000 a month, and you can see here I've definitely fallen behind that. Now I've taken some time off for vacation, and there was some other reasons I'd take some extended time off with Canada Post strikes and stuff like that. So I take that into consideration, but sales are definitely down and they're definitely slow. As you can see in the bar here, guys, there's some days where hardly anything is selling, so not very good. It is the summer months. It's going to be slower. You have to realize that. We'll see how Q4 goes. I'm not too hopeful it's going to be that great, though. Back to the de minimis problem here. Over 90% of the cargo that enters the United States enters under this de minimis rule. So you have to understand companies like Shein, Temu, Wish, you know, people selling on eBay, Etsy, any online store, most of these items actually did come into the United States duty and tariff free, guys. So that means if you're an American consumer, brace yourself, because these cheap items are no longer going to enter the country without a tariff slapped on them. And like I said before, the United States does not have the manufacturing capacity to pick up the slack on most of these items. There's a reason for world trade. They are easier and cheaper to produce in other countries. That's just the way it is, guys. You can't pay someone in the United States $20 to make a 25-cent item that comes from China. It's just not going to work. It's just going to be the new reality. You know what happens when the price of goods goes up, especially in the world's largest economy like the United States. It will raise prices for all these other countries. I can guarantee that. We're not going to get around this. You have to understand, this is not just luxury items like people buying video games from me or, you know, toys or stuff like that. This is everyday items, guys. Clothing, shoes, cosmetics, you know, coffee, food, anything really. It's honestly astonishing how much came into the country under this exemption rule. The impact on small American business is going to be substantial, guys.
Yeah, it just sucks overall. I don't know how else to put it. All shipments after August 29th will be taxed 15%. And 15% is small, but it's still something. It's still quite a lot if you consider how much we are buying, how much we have to restock all the time. Times are hard. So I don't expect, I'm not expecting a big boom of people shopping all of a sudden, because I've seen it since April that there's been a slight dip on how people shop.
And I don't think that that's fair to anybody. It may start to impact prices, not just here, but also everywhere. I would rather raise my prices a little bit than have to fire people or have to not pay a living wage. So those are my options.
For instance, most American small businesses that produce a small product, this is going to leave them scrambling to find other producers locally or in the United States. And like I said before, a lot of these items are just simply not produced locally or in the United States at all. So either the customers are going to eat the cost or the business will attempt to eat some of the cost. But you guys know yourself, if you run a business, you can't always eat that entire cost. This is not something that these small businesses are going to be able to do, and they will eventually have to pass it on to the end consumer. I would expect hyperinflation, guys. There's no way around this. Companies like UPS and the large carriers, I believe they are set up for this. But anyone that ships smaller parcels through postal services like most people do when they are shipping, they're not set up for this. They can't do it, and they probably just will not do it in general. So if you are going to ship something to the United States, pre-prepared for a high shipping cost, and there's going to be duty. If you do sell to the United States, just be prepared that your sales are probably going to crater, whether you're on eBay or Etsy or Poshmark, or you're just a small business in general in one of these other countries. I would expect the shipping costs to go way up, and I would expect your market share in the United States to shrink, guys. Not going to be good. Markets are going to suffer. Businesses will fail in the United States and abroad. I honestly feel this is going to be really bad, guys. The thing you can really do is pivot your business. To me, I've been selling more locally on Marketplace. I might look into doing some international shipping. A little more expensive, but I think if you do the calculated shipping, it would probably be okay. Again, I have about 3,500 listings. I don't want to go through all my listings and change that just at the moment. I did a batch listing where I just removed the United States as one of the destinations, so that didn't take too long. Really don't want to go back in and redo everything again, so I'm just going to wait this one out. I think it might increase trade to other countries, so that might be a blessing in disguise where the world kind of opens up all their markets a little bit more to each other, and they start trading more, and it props up the economies of some of these other countries. My American friends, good luck. Probably will be visiting the country again soon. I've been all over down there. I really like it. Just at the present moment, it seems a little bit volatile, so we've put our trips on hold, but Route 66 is going to be a trip in our near future, and definitely want to take the kids down the East Coast route too, down to Florida and back up and see that part of the country too. I always enjoyed it when I went down there. And as always, everyone have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.